You're listening to episode 2, featuring the true story shared by the author, Kamnap Rittiya.
All right, let's dive into this one. This is going to be a gripping one, folks.
No.
We're looking at a first-hand account of the fall of Phnom Penh to the Khmer Rouge back in 75.
Wow. Yeah.
And get this. The source material we're working with is a translation of a Khmer poem. So think about that for a sec. The emotional weight that must be packed into those verses.
Yeah. You can only imagine, right?
And what really gets me, and I noticed this right away, is how the author uses present tense in some sections. It's like he's pulling you right into the experience, like you're right there with him on that day.
It really is. It's like reaching through time almost.
Yeah.
Making you feel the heat, the fear, all the confusion that was going down in Phnom Penh back then, April 75.
Man, the city was just worn out from years of war, just longing for some peace, you know? And when the Khmer Rouge entered, there was this initial wave of relief. Like people thought, this is it. The war's finally over. Peace at last.
Right.
But that initial joy just makes what follows even more tragic. The author, he describes his family gathering at his cousin's place. They're celebrating, thinking peace has finally arrived. They even say, the year of the rabbit will bring us peace and joy. Just heartbreaking to think about what's waiting for them.
Yeah, it really is. They were, the author's family, I mean, they were like so many others in Phnom Penh. They saw the Khmer Rouge as liberators. But even those first moments, there are signs, right?
Yeah.
Red flags, little things that are a bit off.
Oh, yeah, I noticed that too.
Like the author mentions how serious the Khmer Rouge soldiers looked, almost emotionless. They wouldn't even take water when offered. And their pronouncements, there's this chilling authority to them, something unfamiliar.
Yeah, it's unsettling.
Very much so.
And then, bam! Out of nowhere, the evacuation order, a loudspeaker just blares out, fathers, mothers, and comrades, leave your homes immediately. Anyone who resists will be shot.
Whoa.
Direct quote from the poem.
Wow.
Just imagine that. The sudden order. No warning, no explanation. I mean, talk about disorienting. The fear and confusion must have been overwhelming.
Yeah. To go from celebration to terror like that, it had to be incredibly jarring. And the language itself. Fathers, mothers, and comrades. It's so strange, isn't it? It's almost like they're foreshadowing. Like they're saying, we're going to reshape Cambodian society. We're even going to control the words you use.
It's like they're saying, this is a whole new world.
Exactly.
One thing that really caught my eye, and it might seem small, but the author mentions packing his school bag in the middle of all this chaos. What do you make of that? Is it like a naive hope for normalcy? Like maybe things will go back to routine? Or is there something else going on there?
That is a detail that makes you stop and think, doesn't it? You know, maybe it's just human nature. Yeah. Clinging to familiar things, even when everything's falling apart. Trying to hold on to some routine in the face of the unimaginable is a powerful image. It really shows you what's going on inside the author's head. You know, the clash between his hopes and the reality that's crashing down around him.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like a small detail that speaks volumes.
Exactly.
And you can only imagine the panic during that evacuation. The author's grandmother, she's frantic because some of her kids and grandkids are missing.
Oh, no.
They have to leave, no idea if they'll ever see their loved ones again.
That's just devastating. And this separation, this tearing families apart, wasn't random, you know. That was part of the Khmer Rouge's plan. To break down the existing social structures, to wipe out any loyalty that wasn't directed towards Angkor.
Angkor. Yeah, that name seems to be looming over everything.
Absolutely. It's like a constant presence. The term means the organization.
Yeah.
And it became synonymous with the Khmer Rouge's power, their absolute authority. They made themselves out to be the embodiment of the people, the only source of truth and justice. But, as we'll see, that was all a cruel illusion, just a mask for their brutality, their totalitarian regime.
And it's in this chaos, this fear, that we first come across this chilling phrase, guardian of the street.
Yeah. Chilling is right. It seems innocent enough on the surface, but it reveals a lot about how totalitarian regimes work. Language is a weapon, you know. They twist meanings, make brutality sound normal. The author, he sees bodies by the roadside, victims of the Khmer Rouge's swift justice. And that phrase, guardian of the street, it becomes a code word for death, a warning for anyone who steps out of line.
It's frightening how quickly things turn. One minute they're celebrating, the next they're living in terror. And there's this scene, the author's cousin is forced to give up his watch. The soldier just says, Angkor wants this watch.
Wow.
And they use this weird word, snur, which I guess is their way of saying confiscate or take.
Right. Yeah. The author uses snur over and over. this Khmer word, and it really highlights the Khmer Rouge's control, their absolute control over every single aspect of life, even personal belongings. And it's interesting, they're obsessed with watches, right? These symbols of time, of individuality, but they don't care about gold or diamonds. They even go after car tires, which, it's almost like foreshadowing their obsession with getting rid of modern technology.
It's like they're systematically stripping people, taking away their possessions, their individuality, even their sense of what's normal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's another way to assert their control, to wipe out the old world and force people into their twisted vision.
Yeah.
It's really powerful about this poem. The author doesn't just tell us what happened. He pulls us in, makes us feel like we're right there, like we're the ones facing those impossible choices.
It's true. It makes you think, what would I do in that situation?
Exactly. And it really helps us connect with history, Makes it more than just dates and facts.
One thing that really struck me was the author's description of the chaos during the evacuation. People trying to grab their belongings, the soldiers shooting at anyone who went the wrong way. It sounds like absolute pandemonium.
Oh, yeah. There's this one quote, really chilling. A Khmer Rouge soldier yells, "Hurry and leave the city to avoid death," while pointing his gun at the crowd. It just shows you there was no real choice. It was pure terror and coercion.
It's mind-boggling. One minute they're celebrating the end of the war, the next they're being driven from their homes.
It really highlights how fragile peace can be, how quickly things can shift. And you can see that reflected in the author's own emotions. The joy he felt that morning is gone. It's replaced by fear and confusion.
So where were they going? Did they know where the Khmer Rouge was taking them?
At first, they're told it's an evacuation because the Americans are going to bomb Phnom Penh. It was a lie, of course. But they had no way of knowing that. So they head west, towards their family's home in Baekchan.
But they didn't make it there, right?
No, they're stopped in Campbelltown. The Khmer Rouge forces them to spend the night in a field near a forest. Imagine that. After walking all day in that heat, you're forced to sleep outside, hungry, exhausted, surrounded by armed soldiers.
And the Khmer Rouge keeps terrorizing them. The author mentions soldiers demanding watches again, saying things like, "Ankar wants this watch."
Yeah, that word snore comes up again. They're obsessed with watches, but they ignore gold or diamonds. It's almost like they want to control time itself, erase any trace of the old world.
This constant stripping away of possessions, of individuality, it's incredibly disturbing. It's like another way to break people, force them to conform. But was there no resistance? Didn't anyone see through the Khmer Rouge's lies?
There were people who resisted, of course, people who questioned, who refused to get in, but the Khmer Rouge were brutal. They used fear and intimidation to silence anyone who disagreed with them.
I can't imagine the psychological impact of living under that kind of constant threat. Not just the physical hardships, but the emotional toll.
It must have been immense. The fear, the uncertainty, the constant threat of violence. To survive even one day under those conditions, it would take incredible resilience.
And that's how day one ends. The author and his family huddled under a cypress tree, hungry, terrified, and completely lost. The joy they felt that morning, it seems like a lifetime ago.
It does. That hope for peace, shattered, replaced by the realization that this is just the beginning of their nightmare. This first day, the forced march out of Phnom Penh, it's just the first step in a long and brutal journey.
It's amazing, isn't it, how this poem, this translated poem, can make such a huge historical event feel so personal.
It really is.
We're not just talking about the fall of a city. We're hearing about families torn apart, lives changed forever. It's like we're right there witnessing these individual stories of suffering.
And that's the power of poetry, right?
Yeah.
Even in translation, you can feel that rawness, that intensity that goes beyond just the facts. It lets us, the listeners, connect with the human side of this tragedy.
Yeah, and the way the author keeps bringing it back to us, asking us to imagine ourselves in that situation, it makes the story so much more real, so much more immediate.
Definitely. It reminds us that history isn't just something that happened in the past. It's made up of real lives, real choices, moments of courage and despair. And by understanding these individual stories, we can really start to grasp the complexities of what happened.
This has been a powerful deep dive, really moving, but it makes you wonder, what does it all mean for us today? Why should we care about something that happened so long ago?
Well, the themes in this story, the fear, the loss, the resilience, the fight for survival, they're universal, aren't they?
Yeah, I see that.
We might not face the same horrors, but we can all understand those emotions, the uncertainty, the need for safety and security.
And it's a reminder that these kinds of things can happen anywhere, anytime.
Exactly. The Khmer Rouge came to power by taking advantage of social divisions. by preying on people's fears, by silencing anyone who disagreed. It's a warning about the dangers of ideology, about how fragile peace can be, about the importance of critical thinking, of speaking out against injustice.
So much of history focuses on the winners, the people in power. But this deep dive gives a voice to the victims, the ordinary people caught in the middle.
And that's so important. Their stories show us the true cost of conflict, the scars that war leaves behind. They remind us that every historical event is made up of countless individual tragedies, each one deserving our attention and empathy.
For anyone who wants to learn more, the author's full account, 4 Years and 9 Days, My Life in the Kingdom of Hell, is a powerful read. It's a difficult story, but ultimately a story of hope and resilience.
It really is.
And as for the author, well, we'll be continuing his journey in our next deep dive. We'll explore his experiences in the Kingdom of Hell under the Khmer Rouge. It's a story that will stay with you.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope it left you with a deeper understanding of this complex chapter in history. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and share with your friends to stay updated on our upcoming episodes.